Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Rachin Goyal. In the series of the lectures that were being carried out in the earlier days regarding mechanical vibrations, in that series we are continuing with the various analysis of the mechanical vibrations. Till now, what we have understood regarding mechanical vibrations is that whatsoever approach we need to adopt to analyze the vibrations should be very much stiffer in itself. So, before that, we need to understand properly that what are the various steps which are making this approach a robust one. So, for this, let us say we are having a real system in the real life problems. For example, we are having a rider which is riding the bike itself, we are having an aeroplane. Then, how do we understand that what type of mechanical vibrations are there in such systems? So, firstly, we need to translate our physical models or real life models into the mechanical models using various techniques in the spring mass systems, or you can say in the beams. That is a language in itself, otherwise if I discuss. So, mathematical modeling also is required so as to reach to a particular solution. Regarding this mathematical modeling, we have to convert our mechanical models as given in these diagrams into the equations. Mathematically, we need to understand them better. After doing the mathematical modeling, we need certain solutions which are workable and understandable, of course. So, after we have received certain output out of these mathematical models and solutions have been received, we need to analyze them, that what are the various measures that can be adopted in order to make those vibrations reduced. So, for that we need to understand that what are the various basic elements which are required for a vibratory system to be called as a vibratory system, I would say. So, in that, this is the mass which is supported by a platform, of course, and it has to be supported, or you can say it has to be sandwiched between a stiffness element which is called as springy element or elastic element, or you can say the element having some stiffness, a minimum stiffness should be there, that is denoted by a symbol K. Of course, damping C is required, but that can be an optional one. So, in totality, the minimum things, the minimum parameters that we require for a particular system to be called as vibratory system are two. One is, out of that, you can say the one is inertia forces, which are due to mass of the system, and secondly, we need some type of elastic element which we represented with the help of a spring, and its stiffness is taken into consideration as a basic parameter. So, we say that M and K are two basic parameters to be called a system, or basic elements to be called a system as vibratory system. So, this is very much required to understand before we move on to further. Now, the next step, obviously, as we have just discussed in the modeling, that next step is to convert your models into the equation form or mathematical form. So, for that, let us say we are having a very simple, this is the simplest spring mass system in which minimum two elements are present. One is, of course, our spring having, say, stiffness K, and other is mass M, and it has been displaced by x displacement, and the equation pertaining to these two elements is written right here as mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. Here m is the mass of the block tied, K is the spring stiffness, X is the displacement, and X double dot, that is second derivative of displacement, is acceleration. Okay, so we have written this equation as mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. So this is the required equation which we are requiring to write on the system at the very first instance. Similarly, if we talk about the torsional systems, basically we are having two types of systems. If we see, one is linear systems or translational systems, and other are torsional systems. In torsional systems, let us say we are having a shaft which is having a disc associated with it. At the other end of it, we have mounted a disc with a polar moment of inertia J, length L, this is the shaft, and I is the moment of inertia for it. So on the similar basis, as you can see here, we have written in the case of linear motion, equation was, if you remember them, Ax is equal to 0. So this was the equation. Now every term has been translated. If you see it clearly, rather it is written as torsional stiffness. Okay, so every element has been translated right here. So ultimately we have converted our practical system or physical system into the mathematical system using such mathematical terms. Next step is to move on to the solution of the equations we have just formed out of our physical system. So that is, if we have written, let us say, our equation as mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0, its solution will be written as x is equal to a sine omega t plus phi or theta, this is basically a phase angle, or it can be something like a sine under the root k by m t b cos omega t, and out of that we are getting this natural frequency which is square root of k by m measured in radians per second, and this is the motive behind finding out the natural frequency. Why do we are so much interested in finding out this natural frequency again and again? Since for avoiding the resonance in our structures or our vehicles, we need such type of systems which are not leading towards, we need such frequencies, natural frequencies of our system which are not matching with the frequencies of the external forces, so that resonance could have been producing, which is undesirable. So that's why if we are aware of that this is the natural frequency of our system, let us say 20 kilohertz, so that should not be reached in order to avoid the resonance. So this is the main thing for what we are requiring this type of calculations. Now in the case of rotational systems, as we have just talked, that either it can be translatory system or a rotary system, we can convert every of the parameter into its corresponding or analogous rotational quantity or parameter. That is, x is, you know, the displacement, linear displacement x, it is normally understood as alpha, or you can say theta if we are talking about angular displacement. Similarly, force becomes torque, normally we write it as capital T. Spring becomes, spring constant becomes torsional stiffness, that is KT. C, that is damping constant, becomes CT. Torsional damping constant, mass becomes mass moment of inertia, and so on. So you see that every of the parameter has been translated into rotational parameter as per the requirement of the system or as per the requirement of our existing particular mechanical vibratory domains element. So solution of equation of motion, if we are talking about that what should be the solution of translatory equation, that was omega n is equal to under root k by m. So if we are talking about that what was the solution in terms of torsional systems, of course the equation is I theta double dot, as we have just talked about. In the case of translatory systems, equation was mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0, and in the case of torsional systems, every of the parameter has been written as a rotational analogy, and from here theta double dot, which is angular acceleration, we are converting this into the solution. So under root k by I is omega n square, and from here, as you are well aware of, that this is the natural frequency under root k t by I. Here you can use the term kt for torsional stiffness. Okay, so this is the analysis of torsional systems. Now for vibrational analysis, we are having three broad categories of analysis. There are three broader techniques which can be adopted for various systems, that is, either it can be energy method, Rayleigh's method, or D'Alembert's principle. Three of them are very much useful. Rather, one you can take one more, which is called as Newton's method. Sometimes it is also adopted. So these methods are required for the proper analysis of any vibratory system. So let us take them one by one. If this is taken, that is energy method, what do we do in this? We are having, let us say, a spring mass system available with us, which is having stiffness K, mass m, and it has been displaced to a shorter distance, very small distance, or displacement specifically x. So we'll be having a minimum of the positional change right here. So its position is changing, and what about the various type of energies which are involved right here, if you see it clearly. So at equilibrium position, firstly take up the case of equilibrium position when nothing has been imposed, no force at all has been imposed onto it. What do? We are having mg, or the weight of this element, which is acting vertically downwards. This is the weight. Mg, or the weight which is acting vertically downwards. And about the second one, if we are taking that there's a, what do we see in this particular situation, that how is it so much stable? So K delta St is vertically acting upwards, and this is the force which is responsible to keep this system in equilibrium, and this is nothing but stiffness into frequency deflection, and it is called as static deflection of the spring under the force mg. So this is something like this. We are having a weight mg acting downwards, and it is being stabilized or neutralized by another force which is delta St into K. So what is this force? This is about the force which is static deflection of the spring into the stiffness of the spring, and this is counterbalancing our weight of the given system. For equilibrium, we need to keep these two equations or terms as equal. So this is our first equation. Second is, based upon this thing, what is the kinetic energy now? Now we have displaced. This is undisplaced situation. And this is displaced situation. In undisplaced position, this is being done, that this is counteracting each other. In displaced position, we are having kinetic energy at half mv square. So mv square velocity has been represented. I can write it here. This is x. In these slides have been used for displacement. X dot for velocity, that is the first derivative of displacement x, and x double dot is replacing, you can say, the acceleration, which is the second derivative of displacement or first derivative of velocity. So x double dot. So half mv square now potential energy, it is minus mgx. What is the strain energy now? Strain energy is equal to work done in deforming the spring through distance x. So we need to see that what is the work done for that. For work done, we need some force into the displacement. So what force? Of course, this should be average spring force. For getting the average, we need to have two other forces which are at equilibrium position and at displaced position. That one in this case, one in this case, will be taking the average, or you can say will be taking the force which is on the average really acting on the springs. So at equilibrium, what is the spring force? That is, it has been shown K delta St, this one, and at displaced position, the force will be added up by displacement, that is K delta St plus x. Now we are taking its average as K delta St plus K delta St plus Kx. So if we are multiplying them, that is K delta St plus Kx, and dividing it by 2, will be getting its average value as written right here, K delta St plus x by 2. So this is the value that we are really looking up to. So strain energy is equal to the work done in deforming spring through x, displacement. Now average spring force into x will be providing us the work done, which is of course strain energy. So x is displacement into average spring force is becoming as equal to K delta Stx plus Kx square. This is the second equation right here. Now in first equation, it was observed that K delta St is neutralizing its weight. So these are equal. For that, equation 1 is using this fact in equation 2. So mgx plus half kx square, if we write it, and equation 2 will become mgx plus half kx square, and total potential energy due to, there are three types of energies. One is potential energy, other is strain energy, and of course third one is kinetic energy. So for now, what is the total potential energy? It is the summation of potential and strain energies. So strain energy plus potential energy is equal to mgx plus half kx square minus mgx, and these two terms are getting cancelled to each other, that is mgx and minus mgx, and we are left with half kx square. And during the analysis, you will be observing that there are many cases wherein potential energy has been directly written as half kx square, and that is the crux of the story, that potential energy ultimately is included in itself the strain energy of the system also. So now we have acquired two of the energies, one is potential, other is kinetic. Potential energy, as you can see, it was half mx dot square, and kinetic energy, potential energy is half kx square, and kinetic energy is half mx dot square. So of course, by energy principle, these two energies, if taken together, must be constant in their magnitude. Let us write them together is equal to constant C. So if we are differentiating both sides of it, that is d by dt of half mx dot square plus half kx square, and constants differentiation will be 0. So we are having an equation available, and if we are differentiating it now, we will be getting that half into mx dot square, 2 will it will be mass will remain constant. X dot square is differentiation of x dot square will be 2x dot, and again the differentiation of x dot, which will be x double dot. Similarly, plus half, let me show you here. So if we are interested in finding out that what is d by dt of half m x dot square, sometimes some basic things are being asked from the students. For that, it is half into m, these are the constant one. So really we are interested in, actually we are interested in differentiation of x dot square only. So what is that? It would be 2 into x dot and its differentiation again, which will be x double dot. So we'll be multiplying this by half m. It will become something like, this will be cancelled out, and we are having mx dot x double dot. So this is the differentiation. So if we refer it right here, it will be again showing half into half kx square, half into k, x square is 2x into x dot is equal to 0. So herein these two terms will be cancelled out, 1 by 2 with their correspondingly 2. X dot is present in both the terms, x dot and x dot will be cancelled out, and we are left with mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. So which is the desired equation of motion? It is called as differential equation of motion of second order. So this is the equation for which this analysis is being carried out. So in Rayleigh's method, we are having another strategy, which is rather Rayleigh's method is Energies method's extension. We call it as Rayleigh's method is an extension of energy method. So what do we see in this? Let us take the case of a simple pendulum, wherein if you observe it carefully, it is having two of the positions like this. So if we are having a pendulum having its movement from one end to other end, this is called as its mean position, and this is its extreme position. And at its mean position, the kinetic energy will be, of course, maximum, and at its extreme position, potential energy will be maximum. And when I'm talking about extreme position, it is the both sides. It is also carrying the same thing as this side. So it has been written here, potential energy is maximum at the extreme position. At this position also, kinetic energy is maximum at the mean position. So for this, x is a sin omega t, x dot is, if we are saying that x double dot is minus a omega n square sin omega t, so that can be taken into consideration. So what should be maximum kinetic energy? It is half mx dot square, and what would be the extreme value of it? Extreme value of displacement, you know, it is amplitude. Value of extreme value of displacement is amplitude. So we can write it as x double dot max is omega n a, and for cos, as you know that the maximum cos is 1, so we can have half mx dot square is equal to half m omega n square a square, and similarly mx, if we are taking the value of maximum potential energy half kx square, it is equal to Ka square. So now putting both of them together, we'll be getting half m omega n square a square is equal to half Ka square. So from that we can have K is equal to m omega n square and omega n is equal to K by m, wherein what is K as regular symbols, these are the stiffness and mass, m is mass, and omega n, which is the output of such analysis, it is natural frequency. So natural frequency has been acquired as K by m square root of K by m. Now another principle is D'Alembert's principle. What does it say? It is also pointing us towards a same system, that is we are having at the end of this discussion, you will see that again mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0 has been acquired. This is the equation, but this is based upon a fact, this is based upon a principle proposed by D'Alembert. And what was the principle? It states that if we have a body which is in static equilibrium, by virtue of its acceleration can be brought to the equilibrium by introducing another inertia force called as external force, and this extra force will be equal to mass times the acceleration, and it acts through the center of gravity of the body in the direction opposite to that of acceleration. So in totality, what do we say? That if we are having a body which is not in static equilibrium, by virtue of its acceleration, it has to be brought to the equilibrium position by adding some external extra force which is equal to mass times the acceleration, that is force is equal to mass into acceleration, as you know by Newton's second law. For example, spring force, that is Kx, we are having a body, a spring mass system, let us say this is the system. And it is being pulled downwards by displacement x. So it is having spring force acting upwards and inertia force acting downwards. Now this is not in equilibrium, to bring this body in static equilibrium, inertia force mx double dot has to be introduced in upward direction so that it is taken into equilibrium, and thus mx double dot is becoming equal to kx is equal to 0. So this is D'Alembert's principle, which is also leading us towards the equation of motion, differential equation of motion of second order again. So in certain cases we need to have the addition of two of the simple harmonic motions, which are vibratory motions. So what do we do for that? We have to have at least minimum knowledge of some certain trigonometric identities, that is sin A plus B is equal to sin A cos B plus cos A sin B, cos A plus B is equal to cos A cos B minus sin A sin B. Now if we want to add up two of the vectors, two of the harmonic motions, let us say we are having vector x1 which is equal to a1 cos omega t, and another vector which is x2 is equal to a2 sin omega t. In order to add them, we have to expand them firstly, that is we are adding x1 plus x2. In that case, let us say x1 plus x2 is equal to x, and three of the entities are there now. So x1 will be expanding this, and x2 will be expanding this, will be ultimately equal to another vector which is of course simple harmonic motion in nature. So let us solve this using one example. So we are having two of the motions given here, 4 sin omega t plus 10 degrees and x2 is equal to 6 sin omega t plus 16 degrees. So we need to add them up. X is equal to, right here is, let us say x which will be acquired after addition of these two vectors will be a sin omega t plus alpha. So this is the baseline, that is after adding this and this will be getting some other vector represented by, let us say, x which is equal to a sin omega t plus alpha. So let us write the formula first. X is equal to a sin omega t, here it is a sin omega t plus alpha. Let us expand it trigonometrically. It is a sin a cos b plus cos a sin b is equal to 4. Now we are expanding this vector, that is 4 cos omega t plus 10 degrees plus 6 sin omega t plus 60 degrees. Now we have written them together. Now it's expanding them. Cos a cos b minus sin a sin b. Cos omega t cos 10 degrees minus 4 sin omega t sinus 10, sin 10 degrees. Similarly, we will be expanding this 6 sin omega t cos 60 degrees plus 6 cos omega t sin 60 degrees. Now we will be segregating all the terms. During their segregation, we will be taking care of the coefficients of sin omega t and cos omega t on the left side and right side. So after having the calculations, you will see that cos omega t and sin omega t are getting their values, and finalizing, if we do it, so we will be having a cos alpha as equal to, so this is sin omega t, on the right side sin omega t is what? It is 2.305, and cos omega t, here it is 9.135. So these are the two values for a sin cos alpha and sin cos alpha. Now as you know, a sin square alpha plus cos square alpha is equal to 1. So we will be using the same thing. A is equal to, we are getting a square root of 2.305 square plus 9.3135 square. We will be getting the value as 9.42. And similarly, alpha, that is its face angle, alpha is another parameter which is required. Tangent alpha is equal to 9.135 by 2.305. So we will be getting the value of alpha as tangent, after getting the tangent inverse, 75.838 degrees. So we can rewrite the vector as, this is the answer now, 9.42 sin omega t plus 75 degrees. So from this we have got that this was required, a is equal to 9.42 and alpha is 75.838 degrees. So we can write these two parameters obtained from the addition in the parent equation, and finally we will be having displacement, which is also a simple harmonic motion in itself, another vector, as 9.42 sin omega t plus 75.838 degrees. So this was the requirement from here. Same thing can also be done graphically. So in order to make the system more clarified, this thing can also be taken up graphically. What do we do in that? Let us draw. We are firstly taking both the trigonometric relations in terms of sine function. So if we are having in the different functions, that is first vector was in cos, second function was in sine. So we will be converting this cos into sine. Sine, you know that sine 90 plus theta is equal to cos theta. So we will be writing here sine 90 plus 10 is equal to 100. So it will become 4 sin omega t plus 100 degrees. X1 is sine 6 sin omega t plus 60 degrees. Now we will be drawing these two components of sine onto our this diagram, wherein let us say it has been shown by OX and OY axes. On OX we will be having the same units will be taken. We are having, let us say, 6. It can be represented by 6 centimeters, more convenient to draw. 6 centimeters at 60 degree angle. So this is 60 degree angle and 6 centimeters, and we have drawn afterwards 4 centimeters at 100 degrees. So these two vectors have been drawn, that is OB and OD. Now two parallel lines are being drawn right here, and you can say a resultant of these two vectors will be drawn using the various scales, protectors also. So we can have that we can measure this angle using the protectors as 76 degrees and the length of this particular vector as OC, which is coming out as 9.42. So again, it is somewhere around 9.4, 9.5. So that will be measured from this diagram. So ultimately, we will be validating our fact. We are validating our approach that after addition of two of the vectors, we will be getting another vector which is simple harmonic motion in nature. Similarly, you can take up the example by yourself in which this question has been asked in another way, that if we are having a simple harmonic motion, let us say tan sine omega t plus 60 degrees, we have to break this or split this into two of the harmonic motions, one having its phase angle as 0, other is having its angle as 45 degrees. So relation will something become that tan sine, so we will be starting that tan sine omega t plus 60 degrees will be equal to a vector, let us say A sine omega t plus 0 degrees, since it is 0, need not to write here. So B sine omega t plus 45 degrees. So we can write it at this way. So again we will be doing the same thing after expanding them and after segregating the coefficients of sine omega t and cos omega t. Will be having the values of A, of course, and alpha, which can be put in our, not alpha, A and B, which are required to solve the system, that what two components, what two vectors are there which are forming after splitting this tan sine omega t plus 60 degrees into two of its groups. You can take one more example in it. We are having three of the vectors, that is A sine omega t plus A sine omega t plus 2 pi by 3, A sine omega t plus 4 pi by 3. You can add them. Question is that what is the resultant vector of all three simple harmonic motions. So we will be doing one thing, we will be adding them, and finally you will realize that after having the addition, every term will be cancelled out and resultant will become 0, which has ultimately been asked. So these type of questions can be asked in different ways also. Another aspect which usually students ask, that is there any effect of the mass of the springs on the natural frequency? Yes. If we are having a natural frequency of the spring mass system, so if we are having a spring mass system given, any spring mass system it could be, let us see we are having a turbine or a motor or a vehicle which has been represented here using the mass m, and it has been supported by a spring which is having stiffness k. So we can have its otherwise, if it is massless, its natural frequency as done by this time, it is omega n is equal to under root k by m. It should have been that way. But if we are considering the mass of this string also, so what do we having a changed type of natural frequency? Yes. Let us see how. So by the lecture we have just understood, it is very easy to say that three of the energies are involved in it. Let us see. First energy is kinetic energy due to mass m, which has been tied here, it is equal to half mx dot square. Secondly, kinetic energy, firstly take potential energy due to mass m or displacement x, it is equal to half kx square. Now kinetic energy, thirdly, kinetic energy due to mass which has been additionally taken into consideration, mass of the spring, you can say. So this is the title. We are interested in finding out that whether this mass affects, yes. So this is half, this has been calculated, this you know, half kx square. Now this is the thing. For this, let us have an element which is a shorter element of distance dy, situated at a distance y from the top of this system. It has been displaced by x. So if we are talking about this distance only, what would be kinetic energy of this? It would be, as you know, half, it should be half into x dot square. So what about x dot now? What about x dot? See, how do we find for this? We are having, what is the velocity? If we see it, velocity at length L, it is x dot. Velocity at length 1, it is x dot by L, and velocity at distance y, at this distance, it is x dot y by L. So this is the velocity now. So what would be the mass? This has been attained. What would be the mass? Mass of this element would be rho dy, that is density into linear distance, if we keep other two parameters as constant or 1. So this is mass, and what would be the kinetic energy that way? It would be half rho dy, this is mass, into x dot y by L square. So now this is the kinetic energy belonging to this portion only, but we are interested in entire of the portion. So we'll be doing what thing? We'll be integrating it. After doing the integration, some of the constant terms will be taken out, that is half is constant, rho is constant, x dot square by L square. So basically we'll be deriving from 0 to L only y square dy. Okay. So what would be? It would be half rho x dot square by L square into y square. What should be the integration for this? It should be y cube by 3, or you can say, if we are putting the limits in it, it should be L cube by 3 minus 0, of course. So this becomes half rho x dot square, half rho x dot square by L square into L cube by 3. So we'll be cancelling this. Okay, so we are left with half rho x dot square by 3 half rho L x dot square by 3. So if we are putting all these, now this is the third component. If we are putting them together, all the energies, that is kinetic energy and potential energy, half mx dot square plus half kx square plus half, what is this rho L? Rho L will be total mass of the spring, density into length. So you can write it as ms x dot square by 3. So now we'll be differentiating them. It should be a constant one. If we are differentiating them, we'll be getting, let us say we are differentiating, it will become half into 2 m x dot x double dot plus half k x So we'll be cancelling all these terms. X dot is present in every term. This will also be cancelled. So we are left with mx double dot plus kx plus ms by 3 x double dot is equal to 0, or we can have m plus ms plus 3 . So we are finding the natural frequency is equal to under root k by m plus ms by 3. So this is the changed natural frequency, as you can see here. This is the changed natural frequency. Otherwise, it would have been if no mass is considered, let us say m is 0, so the frequency will become this one. So there is a difference. So this difference is due to the mass of the spring. So that was the point we were interested into proving. So what is the point to be understood right from here? That whether the mass of the spring affects the natural frequency of the system and as an entirety, yes, of course, it is affecting. What way? It depends upon that what is the mass of the spring in itself. So with these considerations, I am winding it up. If out of these any student want to have any query at the end of this lecture, you can post your queries at the address given here. You can take the pic also. So it will be helping you. So in the next lectures to come up in the series, we'll be talking about various aspects regarding various damped vibrations, free damped vibrations, and forced vibrations, which is the area of expertise of many of the vibrational and noise engineering students. So that can be taken up in the coming lectures. Thank you very much.